Hi. Hi, Richard.
Hi, John. I was waiting for some revelatory
Yeah,
exclamation.
it's year 4. You know who we are. You know what this is. If okay. Jim Shooter's rule of storytelling always assume that it's someone's first issue. So introduce the characters so they know and they're not lost. This is a comic book podcast. It is called Bronze and Modern Gods. My name is John.
And I'm Richard. And by comic book podcast, we mean comic book podcast with air quotes because we talk about a lot of stuff.
That's more so on the members only ones where we had members know we had a full diversion into the works of Steve Martin over the weekend. We won't do that here. We're going to stick to comic books, not just collecting them or investing in them, but reading them, enjoying it, loving the hobby, giving them a big bear hug. Hey, follow us on Bronze and Modern at Bronze and Modern Gods on Facebook and Instagram. You get little nuggets during the week, especially on Instagram. I was sharing a panel. I was reading OMAC by Jack Kirby again. And it's such a funny book. If you've never read OMAC, it's only 8 issues. It's light reading, but it's probably Jack Kirby's one of his funniest works. He's very sarcastic, and there's a whole thing, it takes place in the far future. And there's a whole thing where Buddy Blank, aka OMAC, before he's OMAC, he's at work in this corporation and he's really frustrated. And his boss tells him, go take a break at one of the break rooms. And there's different rooms. There's like the violence room where you can go destroy things. There's like the quiet room where you can sit in quiet. And there's a panel where, this woman's coming out of the crying room. She says, Buddy, you should try the crying room. I always feel better after a good cry at work. And I just thought to myself, that's really what's happening now, isn't it? Do they have separate crying rooms now?
Nap room at my work.
Nap room. There you go. I mean, yeah, he was so prescient, that Jack Kirby. If you've never tuned in before, it's this kind of crap that you're gonna have to put up with. Along with underrated books of the week, we've got the old fart rule where we go back 40 years to 1984. Yes, I can do math now after last year's 25-year rule, where several of you noted that we were talking about a book that was actually 30 years old. I blame the anesthesia.
Yeah, that's a good blame.
Thank you. And of course, we start off with our hot book of the week. Richard, I know you love this run. Go for it.
It's new X-Men number 114, Marvel, from 2001. It's the first issue of the Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely relaunch of the X-Men.
Can I stop you there? If you had a baby when this book came out, your baby is graduating college? Can you believe that?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
This is the beginning of that Morrissey Quitely run, which I thought, at the time I was reading it, I thought it was universally loved and adored by everyone. I have come to find out since this is a divisive run. It really kind of took their cues from the X-Men movie from Fox that had come out the year before with those streamlined leather costumes. It's really got the movie reflected here. But Richard, why are people excited about this book right now?
Because it's the first appearance of Cassandra Nova, and Cassandra is kind of being touted as being the big bad for the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine movie, based on the trailer.
She's in the trailer. This has been a book that I think I've even featured this in underrated books of the week sometime in the last couple of years. I think it's massively undervalued. It was the depths of Marvel's troubles. 2001, the print runs were not high. Even though it was an X-Men title and it was Grant Morrison, I don't think the print run was much over 150,000, which is puny for an X-Men key. The high grade raws of this are selling for about $18. 90-day GPA average for a CGC 9.8 is just $143. Believe it or not, Richard, there is a CGC 10 that sold in 2017 for $214.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. Tell everyone, what is your opinion of this run?
It's I'm not a big fan of it. I only read it sporadically because it was kind of out of my full-time reading. But I would pick it up every now and then, and I would put it right back down again. I just wasn't a big fan.
some people just did not like Frank Quietly's art.
Yeah, yeah,
I can see that. Look at, for example, this cover. Take a look at this cover. Look at Emma on the far right. She
yeah,
is literally a cigarette in leather. Uh, there's no proportions.
yeah. I just wasn't a big fan of his work. I'm trying to think of something else that Frank Quietly did. Um,
Well, you've got. I'm trying to think of Flex Mentallo. Um, did Frank Quietly draw the Authority? Yes, he drew the Authority.
there's something else I cannot think of. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Oh, you're just not a fan, right?
No, not a fan.
Did you? I don't want to talk too much about it because there's so many spoilers. It was just kind of a clearing of the decks. You know, Magneto's dead. Magneto's no longer the big thing, although hint hint later. And it's just kind of like they're back in the mansion. It's a school for gifted youngsters. Once again, you have students. You had this exciting new thing happening over in this title. Meanwhile, Uncanny X-Men, you had Joe Casey just shit in the bed. I'm sorry, pardon me.
Wow. What's your opinion again, John?
If you've ever read the Casey Uncanny X-Men run, it wasn't so much Joe Casey. That run, Chuck Austin. That's what I'm thinking of. Chuck Austin was taking a dookie in the comma. Just make some.
It's yeah. The X Men just stopped being a major title for me. I was a hardcore X Men man, and then they just lost their way.
Yeah, this is. I don't know. What do you guys think? This is like Siskel and Ebert when they would disagree over a movie. You guys jump into the comments. What did you think of the new X-Men run by Grant Morrison? I thought it was like a classic, well-regarded run, but the more people I talk to, the more people are like, John, you're nuts. People hated this. Well, we can talk some more in our members only episodes this week. If you're not a member, you don't know what we're talking about. You can become a member of the show and help support us here on YouTube for the cost of $2.99 a month. Yeah, Starbucks. You can show your support, and you get exclusive live member only streams every Thursday night, extra show and tell episodes on Wednesday. We're back now that I'm back to normal. Shout outs. Richard, look, names, new names.
Yay!
And where it helps us out. For example, I'm going to Comic-Con Revolution next month. I'll see everybody there and have a little report from Comic-Con Revolution. It is official, Richard. We can tell people you and I are going to San Diego Comic-Con.
Yep. Got the ticket in the hotel, and
We did it. And if you're watching on Monday, watch out right now. I'm going to give away a gift membership right now in the live chat. So if you want to join, hit join right there next to the subscribe button on YouTube. If you're on your podcast platform that you prefer, you got to come over to YouTube and come to our channel and do it. And we will love you for it. I forgot to do the show and tell spell.
next time.
Here we go. I don't have a theme this week. I have just random mishmash of stuff and some really cool things that I pulled. I probably pulled too many. We'll start with
Yeah, I only got 3.
We'll start with 3. This is House of Mystery number 85 from the late 50s, I believe. It is a beautiful Jack Kirby cover.
Wow.
Easter Island
Mhm.
Stonemen. Don't they look like the Stonemen from Saturn from Journey to Mystery 83, first appearance of Thor?
They look like a certain part of the human anatomy to me.
Are you saying they're dickheads? I'm the pinheads from France, the coneheads. They're these giant stone sentinels of Giant Island. Just a classic Jack Kirby cover and story. You can see I'm fighting the light ring here. Let me move a ring light. There we go. And I just love this cover. I love this late 50s Jack Kirby stuff that he did for DC before he went back over to Atlas. And it was so contemporaneous with Challengers of the Unknown. He was doing that at the same time. So really highly regarded these Kirby covers for the early DC Silver Age. What do you have?
I got to cut. Let's see. We'll start off with this one. Everyone knows I'm a huge fan of
Huge what?
Huge fan of Alan Moore's work. I have Swamp Thing Annual. This is a perfect example of John Toddleman's artwork. You can see his style is very, it's very, I want to say horror focused because, the lines are very stark and the way he poses people. Look at the demon over here. I mean, he looks like the classic the kind of the evil vampire
A
look.
demon.
Yeah, a demon. Yeah. So this is in the heart of the whole storyline with Swamp Thing. If you haven't read this, it is an excellent, excellent storyline. Alan Moore is. I question his mental health at some points, but his ability to tell a story is unprecedented. I really think he is one of the gems of our generation when it comes to writing. So many stories that he's penned that we think are classics. But this is book came from I bought this off of the newsstand back in the day, and has been sitting in my collection for over 30 years.
That's also the prototype for Justice League Dark.
Hmm.
That team there, that is the annual where, spoiler, um, Alec, aka Swamp Thing, goes down to hell to try to save his wife Abby, who has been sent there by Arcane, and the classic Arcane asking Alec, "How long have I been down here?" Do you remember the answer to that?
No, but
Wasn't it 5 days?
yes, and he screamed. Yeah, I mean that's again that's the kind of story, and you got to remember these this a lot of his story tropes have been aped over the years by other people, and it's he was the originator of some of the horror that DC had in this book because at the time this was a pretty sharp edged kind of book for DC.
It's easy to forget how influential and groundbreaking Alan Moore really was. He was the master of those little moments like that that really made things. And now it's standard. You read every book. It's still 40 years later reads
Mhm.
like it's an Alan Moore Watchmen thing. But he was the man. I was reading Tom Brevoort, the executive editor at Marvel. He edits X-Men now. He has a great blog, and he was answering questions in the comments, and I had never heard this before. We talked about Thriller a few weeks ago, one of my recommended underrated books. Apparently, when the original creators of Thriller were leaving the book, aka they were fired off the book, depending on who you talk to, Alan Moore was offered to write the book.
Oh boy.
It was close to happening, but then they decided just to cancel it. Oh man, I want to read an Alan Moore thriller. Oh, could you imagine? There'd probably be like the fourth thriller movie happening right
Oh
now.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I just found that fascinating. I never heard that before. Uh, Not every book is beautiful, but shouldn't stop you from owning it if you want it. It is Venus, number 8.
Yeah,
It's
it's
got
got a little. Yeah.
the writing, Rusty Staples, beautiful painted cover. This book, if you know anything about Venus, it went through so many permutations. It started off as a kind of a whimsical romance title, as you can see. Then it takes a hard left into science fiction. Then
Yeah.
it's a hard right into straight ahead pre-code horror. Is like, why not just cancel the book? I don't know. They just kept it alive for so long. It must have sold somewhat. But this is my little personal copy of Venus number 8. Why isn't it a slabbed? I don't know. It doesn't need to be slabbed. I like looking at it. That ink is not going to be removed. Uh,
Mhm.
it's just a beautiful book to have in your collection.
Yeah, we share a love for Venus. Unlike you, I've not ever owned, a close to a full set. I've got one because the price on these books nowadays are just sky high. We saw a Venus 19 this past weekend, which is the last issue of the series, and even a point five of it was what was it, $3,500?
There is a point five Venus 19 currently on the CGC board for $3,500, missing 2 pages. Uh, he did update it yesterday in the thread, 10% off
Okay.
right now. So you can save $350 if you want it. I don't think it's an unfair price. It was just shocking to
Mhm.
see how rare and scarce that number 19 is. I've never owned a 19. I had, like Richard alluded to a second ago, I had nearly a full run about 15 years ago that I sold off, and I never had a 19. Had an 18, had a 6.0 18.
Oh.
So close, no cigar. What do we got?
Let's see. Next book I have is a goofy one. Um, I the Star Wars number Darth Vader number 23. We've got BT-1 on the cover. He's one of the pair of assassin droids that travel with Dr. Aphra. If you know R2D2 and C3PO, this is the R2D2 of the pair. And for those on listening to the podcast, it's a one of those action figure covers with an R2D2 looking droid in the corner, and he looks kind of unassuming, but he has a whole arsenal of weapons that he can produce and kills quite often with them. And then there is a CP30 torture droid that is partnered with him that gets he really enjoys his job, let's say. So
Torture droid.
it's a hilarious combination, and it's one of those pairings that I am so surprised we haven't seen some kind of storyline, either a comic book or a TV show or something that highlights these two, because the way that the writer writes their story, it's comical and horrific at the same time. So they're great characters. I love these action figure covers just because I remember back in the days with the Kenner action figures and having the blister packs and all that. So this kind of brings back that whole mindset.
I was going to ask you, was there a droid that looked like that in the OG uh, action figures, the Hasbro's? There's a droid that looks like him.
Yeah, the droid that when Luke first goes to get the droids on his uncle's farm, the one that blows up that he then turns and gets R2D2 is a droid of this type.
Okay, I do remember that. Boy, how desperate were they for toys that they were making? Here's a droid that blows up. Um, I don't know if you know about this, Richard. When the Incredible Hulk 2000 series changed hands, the numbering, they relaunched it again with the number one, yet another Incredible Hulk number one. They took the existing renumbering and started this series, The Incredible Hercules 112,
What? Really?
which is the first issue of this series. And look at that Art Adams homage cover to Incredible Hulk Annual number one.
That is an awesome cover.
And there you have Amadeus Cho in the background there, his sidekick. This is a great run, really well written. It strikes the perfect, probably the best Hercules series ever done, including the Bob Layton stuff. It just strikes the perfect match between comedy and pathos.
Mhm.
Makes Hercules a character you actually give a crap about, and great supporting cast. And this is one of those weird things where, wow, this actually ran for 3 or 4 years. And then he was able to spin off into a couple of relaunches, but then, eventually the tires wore down and
Mhm.
it. And there hasn't been a Hercules series since, but this is just a great cover. Great Art Adams covers on this series.
Yeah, that is a great cover. If it's an homage to the annual, was it annual number 10? I can't remember the
Annual one with
annual one. That's it.
Stranko.
King size annual, right?
He gives Stranko a little credit here on the signature. I don't know if you can see that. It's
Oh,
stuff.
does it say after the strike?
Yeah,
Yeah.
after Jimmy Steranko, Mr. Stranko. All right, there you've got one more, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yep. This is a book that I saw on eBay and I just kind of had to have it. It's $110 I paid for it. This is Jungle Comics number 78
Wow.
from 1946. My wife says I'm a perv. I have no idea why she says that. Uh, it's
Yeah.
it's yet another bondage cover. For those who are listening, you've got this brunette tied to a pole with flames looking at her feet, while some blonde haired dude in the background beats up people of color.
Pretty,
Situation normal.
pretty much every 40s cover you just described. Yeah.
It is truly every 40s cover can be summed up in that synopsis. But it's just
Wow.
a gorgeous cover, and the color is a little faded, but I love the design, and and it's almost a 4.0, and for $110,
It's
I
a
just couldn't.
steal.
Yeah, I couldn't say no.
Is that something you would ever consider cracking and flipping through? Or
You know what? That's a very good question. Um, if I can't find the tech, there's a lot of these books. People have already done that, and they've scanned them, and they're available online.
okay.
So if I can't find that, I'd be interested because I think it could use a press. Uh, Here's something. The back is also hilarious. You see, Sheena is focused, and there's a story. There's a little letter here written. Everyone knows Sheena and her skimpy outfits, and the
Mhm.
letter is addressed to is from John Bartram High School, and it's addressed to or Jumbo Comics. And it says, "Dear Mr. Thomas, by the very popular vote of the graduating class of February 1947 of the John Bartram High School, um, we have selected Sheena as the class mascot."
Yeah, sure. I'm sure you did.
And they want to be able to use her as a mascot and have the ability to, yeah, because that's what you want on your high school yearbook, some scantily clad woman
Hmm.
as the mascot.
And what was the publisher's reply? No. Cease and desist.
Unfortunately, there is no reply listed here, but I thought that was funny. They thought enough of it to put it on the back of the book.
I'm sure the female members of that class were just as excited about
I'm
it.
sure.
Should Richard crack it or not? You can tell us in a segment we like to call Viewer Mail.
You've got
Our
mail.
first piece of viewer mail comes to us from our email at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com from Ahmed. Hello, John and Richard. Hope you both are doing well. This will be my second email to you. The first is about my Miracle Man #1 UK yellow back issue find.
Mm,
Sure to rub it in your face. I have a question that I was hoping you can answer. I don't know how cheap/expensive the comic book hobby was back in the 90s, or even before then, comparatively to today, but I feel like buying new issues on a weekly basis is quite expensive. Am I wrong to think that £4.99 onwards is pushing it, especially when it's a first issue and the character is new or not well known? If the publishers complain about costs, why don't they print it on the cheapest paper and sell the issues on newsstands again? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like comics should first and foremost be about the reading of the material, enjoying the story, right? Also, this way, collecting those cheaply made issues would probably be more tougher, rarer, since they can always release alternate variants with better quality at higher price. Kind regards, Ahmed. Thanks, Ahmed.
thank you.
Uh, Age old debate. It is insanely expensive right now.
Yes.
Insanely so. Everything is. Um, it was insanely expensive when comics went to $1. I remember that feeling the pinch because it was a leap from, well, it was only from 95 cents. I think the leap from 75 to 95 was
Mhm.
tougher. Um, but you've said something a lot of people say all the time. Why don't they go back to newsprint? Do you know we know how fanboys are. They're very understanding and they forgive things and they understand why decisions are made. They don't complain at all. No, can you imagine the furor if they went to newsprint from this glossy deluxe presentation now? I think it's kind of clinging to the past. It's like people saying, why doesn't MTV show music videos anymore? It's easy thing to say. It's less about what's right for MTV and more about I want to regain the past.
Mhm.
And MTV doesn't show music videos anymore because you have YouTube where you can watch every music video on demand. So why would you ever watch MTV if they were playing music videos? I wouldn't. So I hear you, Ahmed. I just don't think it makes sense to go back to newsprint as much as we would love that nostalgia wise. I know there have been experiments in the past where they've done special issues like that. Doesn't make a dent. Um, I also think $4.99 for a debut issue is crazy. So does Marvel. That's why they've announced they're going to stop doing it. They've been very vague about what that means because all the new X-Men titles are, guess what? first issues.
4.99 or
Yeah, 4.99. So well, I thought you guys said you were going to stop at the retailer summit. What's going on? So let's wait and see. But Ahmed, I hear you. It's expensive. That's why I'm down to what, 3 titles?
yeah, yeah. I remember when I was in the heat of the peak of my collection, I just had a pull list with vague things like "Give me all number ones."
Uh, every Captain America book, every Hercules book, every Howard the Duck
Mhm,
book.
mhm,
House of Secrets knows to pull those for me. Still, I
mhm.
had to go back and be like, guys, I don't want United States of Captain America.
Well, the thing, it was easier back then. I mean, if you say all number ones, you got all number ones. There were no such things as variant covers back
Right.
in the day. So if 50 titles were released, you would get 50 copies, right? You wouldn't get 17 copies because of one title because there's all these different variant covers. And the books at the time were 25, 35, 50 cents. I mean, they were so to a point where I could get on a weekly basis 30 books and still it would be affordable. You couldn't do that anymore. And the prices have changed. And excuse me. And I understand the desire to go back to newsprint and sell from the problem with there is multifold. The venues that they used to sell newsstand books at don't exist anymore. There are no bookstores, anymore. The corner Lawson's is not going to stock comic books because that's not their business model anymore. Really, the comics are relegated to either online sales or to specialty shops, your local comic book store. And I don't know if it's economical for the local comic book store to take shelf space for books that are um, lower price and potentially less profit. I mean, they're in the business to make money, and they want the shelf space for books that are going to be profitable. So there's that avenue of it. But yeah, I agree. It's tough. I don't know how you get a new character introduced when here we've got Stucco Boy. He's it's done by M Night Shyamalan, and it's six $5 to take a
I,
chance on it.
I'm in. Uh, one thing I forgot to mention when I was doing my spiel on this is the cost. It actually would cost more to print on newsprint now than slick paper because of
Mhm,
digital press. So that is also a factor. You would probably be paying the same price for a newsprint book. And Richard, to your point about new characters, why would you create a new character for Marvel or DC if you were a
yeah.
writer?
Yeah.
Why would you give them the rights to this when you can go do it independently, make your own movie deal, hopefully, Invincible,
Mhm.
uh, that's why we see things like Spider Boy. Who wants to give Disney your intellectual property if it's a really good idea? So you're
That is
just
horrible.
it's true. You're getting all you guys are going to get now are derivatives of Batman, Spider-Man, whatever sells, X-Men. You're going to get, Rogue's going to have a solo title now. Bird Boy from the New Mutants will probably end up having a solo title because nobody that knows anything is going to give a corporation their intellectual property if it's a really good idea.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's a valid point. We're racing towards mediocrity because that's what the system rewards. That's
Is
sad.
I think the only way to get her out of this mediocre thing is to concentrate on your core characters, find really good writers and artists, and make the best comic book you possibly can. That's
Mhm,
why Captain America is good again. I'm waiting to see what happens with the X-Men. I'm
mhm.
cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, you're right though. I mean, it's not like there is a lack of existing characters. I mean, you've got 70 years of characters to pull from. It's taking advantage of the ones that you have and using them well.
Mhm.
Maybe new characters aren't necessary if you write good stories about the ones you already have.
Who would have ever thought the Guardians of the Galaxy would be a movie
Mhm,
and be able to sustain a comic book. This was a dog of a book in the 70s. These characters, Steve Gerber wrote it. I should be the one going, "Yay, Guardians." No, it was probably the lesser light among Steve Gerber's oh there.
mhm.
Ah, let's move on. We'll be talking about this all day. What's the first piece of viewer mail?
My first piece is from our email from Chris Guile. I that's how you pronounce your last name. I'm sorry if I butchered it. He starts with, "Hey, you guys,"
The
which
electric company?
yeah, brought back memories when I saw that. Oh, like Richard, I'm not big on celebrities, cosplay, or other pop culture stuff. So most shows for me are 1 hour in and out. Amen. In my area, there is only one show, Autumn, and they do some comics, but mostly it's other geek things. For me to go to other shows is approximately 50 to 60 miles in either direction.
Woo.
I've been thinking lately of starting my own comic book centric shows, but I have no knowledge about running comic shows and any information, booking dealers, picking booking venues, advertising, etc. would be helpful. Thanks, thanks, and keep up the great job. Broke cause of comics. Uh, Chris, I've have to say it's an admirable thing to want to start a show because it shows your passion. There is just so much drama and so much extra work involved in trying to herd cats that are comic book dealers and secure a venue and then sell the tables and then get security. And there is so much work. I know we have some mutual friends who do shows and they do them well, but there's a lot of time and lead stuff to get into to do it. I'm not trying to discourage you and say that not to do it, but I just want you to have a realistic expectation of going in. It's not a profit center. It's going to eat up all your time, and what's going to pay you in is just your love of comics and maybe the friends you make in the process of doing it. But it's a lot of work, and I want you to be prepared for that.
That may be enough of a reason to do it. I'm gonna be a little more positive. Richard's absolutely right. You're not doing this because you think you're going to make a lot of coin. Um, Most people that are convention organizers, they set up at their own convention and they have the prime real estate. And that's where they make the money from the foot traffic and they sell their stuff. They're not making it from the dealer stalls, unless you're San Diego. Um, then you're just bleeding the studios dry. Um, so you gotta really broke cost of comics. You gotta love this to do it, and that's actually a great reason to do it. If I had time and if I was retired and living in Palm Springs, you better believe that there would be a monthly comic show in Palm Springs at some VFW uh, because I'm a veteran, so I can be. Hey, can I grab this room for one Saturday a month from 10 to 6? I would love to do that and do a little setup myself and make some side hustle money. I've only got, let's see, I'm 39, so I've only got a few more years until I retire. Who knows? It might happen.
Yeah, what's unit of measurement are you using to come up with 39?
Why did you laugh when I said I don't appreciate that. My next piece of viewer mail also comes from our email at Bronze and Modern Gods from JJ. Hi, JJ. Hello to you both, and I want to express how enjoyable your podcasts are and how you keep to the interests of the hobby. I listen and watch on Spotify. Oh, that's interesting. Good to know. Sorry, this may be a bit long to read, but here goes. In reflection, when I used to attend the yearly Comic Con as a younger individual, I realize now I did not appreciate the artists and writers and all the in between on making something amazing show up in the comic art form. I've met several that have passed on, and all we have now are memories and the comics they worked on. We may have opinions on what is good art and writing, but overall, the majority of the individuals worked hard at their craft. This is John jumping in, even Don Heck. I wrote in prior and said I met and talked with Dave Stevens at San Diego Comic Con and got several signings from him. I recall it was not a long meet and greet, but I now realize how likely was fatigued, as this was the time he was battling his cancer. I also met Michael Turner, and I was grateful I did, as he was so enthusiastic about his character Aspen. Sadly, he too passed on. Enclosed, you'll see an original comic art from Rogue that I bought from an auction house, drawn by the late Mike Wieringo. And understanding the layout process and knowing I could never do what these amazing, brilliant people did routinely to make us happy. Criticisms aside, I respect everyone in this medium and the talent they have. Some may be in the dollar bin, some may be worth millions. Overall, I appreciate you both in allowing me to reflect on the hobby and enjoy the fun. Sincerely, JJ. JJ, I love this letter. I
Yeah.
love the email. I've been very, very blessed and lucky. I've met all my heroes just about. I met Jack Kirby and shook his hand. You've all seen the picture. I met John Byrne and he didn't yell at me. I met Jim Shooter. I even had a very, very glancing interaction with Stan Lee once. Um, I make fun of some people, the Don Hicks and Frank Robbins of the world. Would I love to own an original piece of Frank Robbins art? Abso-friggin-lutely. Don Heck, too. These guys were journeymen. They made their living doing what they loved. You read about Herb Trimpe and how he was fired when he was in his 50s for not being current and up to date. And, it breaks your heart because the guy worked at Marvel for over 20 years doing what he loved. And then he had to go teach. And we'll miss them when they're gone.
Yeah.
All of them. We'll miss them when they're gone.
Yep. We'll miss him when AI takes over.
No, go say hi to him now while you can. You think Todd the God's going to be around forever? He's not. You think Rob Liefeld's going to be around forever? He's not. You think Richard and I are going to be around forever? And you're right. We're not going anywhere.
I love the pictures he sent. I love the Vampirella Dave Stevens sign. That's got to be and just an amazing thing. And the artwork that he includes is also amazing. And they're one of a kinds. I mean, they did these layouts and then they submitted these layouts to publishing, and there's that this was the copy that actually made the plates to produce that comic. So that's just fantastic and amazing. And these are one of a kind pieces of artwork I hope you cherish and enjoy. And if you don't, you can always just send them to me and I will cherish and enjoy them for you.
We joke sometimes about some of these artists, but it is that it is sort of gentle ribbing. Uh, but these people, you should be respected for what they did in the past. They blazed. Even Don Heck, he helped create Iron Man, one of the Avengers.
Mhm.
So God bless him. Richard, what is your next piece of viewer mail?
Uh, my next piece is from friend of the show and great guy Kevin Morton, K Mort,
Hey, boy.
via email. And he says, "Howdy, fellas. On this Wednesday show, you were talking about Spider-Man 194, the first Black Cat. Did you know that the person and accounts at the center of the CGC holder scandal is responsible for 10% of the 9.8 issues on the CGC census? That
Is that true, Kevin?
man. Well, it's easy to find out. I mean,
Ooh,
these look at the certificate numbers. You can see which when they were submitted as a group. So that's
man.
scary. CGC quality control is totally gone to
Beep.
beep. The last load of books I got back looks like they crunched them into a case, but of course it doesn't show up well in photos, so I can't really complain. And I have another book I know for a fact they didn't open the book because the back of the front cover was stuck to the front page and tore the splash page when I opened it. Um, Nothing in the grader's notes tell me again how three people actually look at these books. Kind regards, K Mort. Yeah, I find that totally hilarious because they even showed in that last bulk grading um, video that they had, which they thought was a great piece of transparency. They had a stack of comics and they looked at the spines, and based on the spines, they eliminated some books. And then they did other things. Never did they actually open the book and flip through them to make sure that the pages weren't white, blank for all we could tell from their grading process. And then they just pushed the pile aside. And did a second person go through that same exercise, and then a third person? No, I just don't see that being true for the bulk ratings. And for other books, I question whether or not that is an actual process they have for
I
all
think
books.
they've announced. I remember. You guys tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm making stuff up. I think they have backed off
Okay.
the three people grade every book thing. Someone in the chat is going to know. You guys know everything. Glenn Simpson, where are you?
Well, then good. I'm glad they backed off of that because I just don't see it. I just don't see it with the volume that they do, that really being viable, except for maybe super high grades, or super rare books that they want to have more control over the grading process.
I'm trying to think of a transition from there, Richard, into the old fart rule.
Or for rule,
And that was not it.
yeah, it was close enough.
Old fart rule. We'll go 40 years back to 1984. I'm doing my math right, correct?
Yeah.
1984.
Hmm.
And we focus on the books that came out then that formed our collections and our loves. This is not one of those. This is something I saw that was so strange and so weird that I had to talk about it. It is a Marvel UK weekly called The Thing is Big Ben, #1 from 1984. There it is. Looks like your typical Marvel UK weekly. I understand. I get it. Ben Grimm, Big Ben, UK. The Thing is Big Ben. Would you call your title that? You're really digging in on the pun. Just
Yes, you
call it
are.
yeah, just call it The Thing Weekly. What UK folks, what am I missing? Am I missing a joke here besides the reference to Big Ben, the clock tower? Um, First issue of this Marvel UK Weekly, which reprinted stories from Marvel 2-in-1 featuring The Thing and teamed up with various characters, Iron Man stories, and Captain America stories. The only thing new in here is the cover and some filler material. The cover, which cracks me up. It's by Jerry Paris. Look, Richard, he gets a free Big Ben cap inside.
Wow, lucky guy. That's awesome.
Any of you guys have the Big Ben cap that you can share a picture? Please email us at bronzeandmoderngods at
And this
gmail.
is a common thing, right, with UK weeklies, just including things, like
Freebies and
freebies.
giveaways.
Hmm.
Win a BMX bike. Here's a free badge. Here's a cap. Here's rub off stickers. Always with these UK weeklies. This is interesting because there are not a lot of recorded sales on eBay. The only thing I was able to find recently was a 10 issue lot of The Thing is Big Ben, including issue 1, that sold for $16.14 in February. This weekly ran a scant 18 weeks, which at first I thought, oh, must really not have sold well. But it's interesting they picked up the reprinting of Marvel 2-in-1, just enough issues. So the last issue of this reprints the last issue of Marvel 2-in-1. So I don't know if they felt they didn't want to reprint the Thing solo title after that, or if sales were just bad and they said, okay, this is a nice ending point. Let's call it a day. Richard, I just can't stop looking at the cover. Look at Ben.
I know. If you look in the background, you get all the Avengers. You got Spider Woman. You got Doctor Doom.
And they're all like jealous of his Big Ben cap.
They are. They are. It's in a very interesting and eclectic group of super people.
Uh,
Uh, I gotta love it.
And the logo looks like it was drawn in an hour. Oh, we need a logo. We're going to press. Somebody, you intern, draw a logo. Do this.
Yeah, definitely not high quality. And old Blue Eyes is back. That's great.
Uh, we know some of you collect UK weeklies. Is this one you want? Is this clogging the back issue bins at the London Comic Swap? Let us know. And while you do that, we'll keep talking about our underrated books of the week. Richard, go for it.
My pick this week is New Avengers #1, 2005 from Marvel, specifically the copies that were graded by CGC for the Wizards first program. I've got a copy here on the screen. What's really cool about this book was graded a 9.5, which is crazy. There are 99 copies of this book, and they are numbered on the label itself, so that you can differentiate the different issues or copies in the run. Um, People may know the sketch copy of this. There's a Wizards New Avengers sketch copy that is much more famous and much more expensive. You see it going for over 2,500 to 4 grand. It's not an expensive book. This though, this book is cheap. The last recorded sale, according to GPA, was back in 2021 for $154. Now remember, this is one of 99 books, and it is one of the few books that's ever graded anything other than the regular CGC scale. This is a 9.5.
What is the reasoning for 9.5? Is there something I'm missing?
I have a feeling it has something to do with Wizards and some milestone that they have. I can't understand why they would arbitrarily just pick 9.5.
Weird.
Um, it's just it's a bizarre thing. If you look at GPA on the listings for GPA, they list it as a 9.4, and then in the comments they say, yeah, it's actually a 9.5. So they don't even have the ability in their database to store a 9.5 as a book, which I find is hilarious. It's a rare book, and it has that particular grade. And after all the controversy that Bad Idea had around their physically grading books at a specific numbers, they had that clear book that they graded one for each, or one for each of the different uh, values on the grading scale. I really see CGC not, breaking uh, their patterns and having non-standard grading anymore. So this may be um, one of the few 9.5s out there that ever exist. And again, it's one of 99. Right now, there's a copy of this book on eBay for $399 for this 9.5. I think that's a good price. I'm wrestling with myself to think if I'm going to buy it before this episode airs, just because it's the rarity of it, of that particular grade. I think is something that is singularly important and totally underrated.
Well, now everybody knows that if the book is gone by the time this episode airs, Richard is pumping and dumping this book. He's guilty. Uh,
I'm doing the pumping part. I'm not dumping it.
okay, we talk about CGC and their compromised integrity all the time, and I always tell people this is nothing new. And this is an example. This is from 19 years ago when they did some. What's a 9.5? Is it a 9.8 that they just arbitrarily reach, or do they go out of their way to find a book that wasn't quite a 9.8 or a 9.6 or a 9.4? No, it means the grade is meaningless on
Mhm.
this book. Uh, I don't you say it's underrated and you want one, I see it and I go, this is Siskel and Ebert again. This is thumbs down.
I could understand that. I could completely understand that. It's to me, it's one of those oddball things.
It's a curio.
Yeah, it's a curio. Absolutely.
I still wouldn't pay 95 cents for it. I wouldn't pay $9.5 for it. But this book I would. It is Our Fighting Forces 123, inspired by our live stream with members last Friday. I'm going to feature this book. This is while they first appeared in GI Combat 138 as the losers. This is where the losers series begins in Our Fighting Forces, and it would run all the way to the end of the title, issue 181, which was a victim of the DC implosion in 1978. Each member of the losers had their own failed series beforehand, so they are aptly named. Uh, Captain Johnny Cloud was in All American Men of War. Gunner and Sarge were in Our Fighting Forces. Captain Storm had his own title for a little bit, and they could not support their own series, so they threw them all together and called them the Losers. Talk about meta before the thing. I love this book. I found this at, I believe, Comic Con Revolution a couple of years ago on a shelf, very cheap. It is super sharp, this copy. I've never gotten it graded. Maybe I'll get a 9.5, Richard, if I request it. A CGC 9.6, however, brace yourself, sold this year in January of this year for $384.
Oh my goodness. You would have
A
snapped that up in a heartbeat.
Oh my god, a CGC 9.6 of this book exists, number 1,
Mhm.
and number 2, it's sold only for $384. There is a 9.8, but that is sold for over $1,000 years ago. So there you go. Some loser action for you losers out there. And that is it for this episode. Members, we will see you Wednesday for our special members only episode, and then on Friday for the live stream. Richard, say bye.
I was giving a dramatic pause.
Oh, Richard.
Everybody, stay safe.